Astika Parva continues. Section 30. Something said, at the touch by the Garuda of great might with his feet, the branch of the tree broke as it was caught by Garuda. Casting his eyes around in wonder, he saw Valakili rishis hanging therefrom with the heads downwards and engaged in aesthetic penances, reflecting that if that bow fell down, the rishis would be slain. The mighty one had held the elephant and the tortoise still more firmly with his claws, and from fear of slaying the rishis and desire of saving them, held that bow in his beaks and rose on his wings. The great rishis were struck with wonder at the sight of the act of his which was beyond even the power of the gods, and give the mighty bird a name. They said, as this ranger of the skies rises on its wings, bearing heavy burden, let this foremost birds of having snakes for his food be called Garuda, the bearer of heavy weight. And shaking the mountains by his wings, Garuda leisurely coursed through the skies as he soared with the elephants and the tortoise in his class. He beheld various regions underneath, desiring to be as he did to save the Valakilias. He saw not a spot where he can sit. At last he went to the foremost of mountains called Gandhamadana. Gandhamadana comes in Uttarakhand. On the way to Kedarnath, those mountains are called Gandhamadana. There he saw his father Kashyapa engaged in ascetic devotions. Kashyapa also saw his son, the ranger of skies, divine form, possessed of great splendor and energy of strength, and endued with the speed of wind or the minds, huge as mountain peak. Ready smiter like curse of Brahmana, inconceivable, indescribable, frightful to all creatures, possessed of great prowess, terrible of splendor, Agni himself, incapable of being overcome by the deities Danavas and invincible Rakshasas, capable of splitting the mountain summits and sucking the ocean itself and destroying the three worlds, fierce and looking like Yama himself. The illustrious Kashyapa, seeing his approach, knowing also his motives, spoke on to these words. So Kashyapa said, O child, do not commit a rash act, for then thou would have to suffer pain. Valakilya supporting themselves by drinking the rays of sun might, if angry, blast thee. Sauti continued. Kashyapa then propitiated for the sake of his sons, the Valakilyas of exceeding good fortune, whose sins have been destroyed by aesthetic penances. Kashyapa said, A, whose wealth is aestheticism. The essay of Garuda is for good of all creatures. Task is great, and is striving to accomplish it. Behoove you to accord him your permission. So they continued. Those ascetics thus addressed by the illustrious Kashyapa abandoned that bow and went to the sacred mountain Himavat purpose of ascetic penances. After those rishis had gone, son of Vinitha, with voice obstructed by the bow in his beaks, asked his father, saying, O illustrious one, where shall I throw the arm of the tree? O illustrious one, indicate me some region without human beings. Then Kashyapa spoke, mountain of human beings with calves and tails, always covered with snow, incapable of approach by ordinary creatures even in thought. And the great bird bearing the branch, and elephants, the tortoise proceeded with great speed towards the mountain. The great arm of the tree with the branch, the arm of tree with the bird, the huge body flew away, could not be grit round with a cord made of 100 heights. Garuda, the lord of birds, then flew away for hundreds of thousands of yojanas within the shortest time, and going according to the directions of his father, that mountain almost in a moment, that ranger in the skies let fall the gigantic bow. It fell with great noise. The prince of mountains shook, struck, storm raised by Garuda's wing, and the trees thereupon dropped showers of flowers. The peaks decked with gems, gold adorning that great mountain itself, were loosened and fell down on all sides. And the falling bough struck numerous trees with golden flowers, dark foliage shone like clouds, charged with lightning, and those trees, bright as gold, falling down the ground, dyed with mountain metals, shone as if they were bathed with rays of sun. Then the best of birds, Garuda, perching on the summit of that mountain, ate both elephant and the tortoise, rose on his wings at great speed from the top of the mountain. The various omens began to appear among the gods, forbidding fear. Indra, favorite thunderbolt, blazed up with fright. Meteors with flames and smoke, loosened from the Vulcan, shot down during the day. And the weapons of the Vasus, the Rudras, the Adityas, Sabhyas, Maruts, and other gods began to spend their force against each other. Such a thing never happened even during the war between gods and the Asuras. The winds blew accompanied with thunder, the meteors fell by thousands. The sky, though cloudless, roared tremendously. And even you, who was the god of gods, shed showers of blood. And the flowery garlands of the necks of the gods faded, and their prowess suffered diminution. Normally, flowers of gods do not fade. It is those dwellers of heaven whose garlands, when they fade, they fall to earth or even to lower regions. So it never happens unless there is a bad omen. And he of the thousand sacrifices, with other gods perplexed with fear in the sight of those forebodings, spoke on to Brihaspati thus: Why, O worshipful one, have these natural disturbances suddenly arisen? No foe do I behold who would press us in war. Brihaspati answered, O chief of gods, O you of thousand sacrifices, it is from thy fault and carelessness, and owing also to ascetic penance of the high souled great rishis, the Valakilyas, the son of Kashyapa, and Vinita, a ranger of the skies, endued with great strength and possessing the capacity, assuming at will any form is approaching to take away the Soma, and that bird foremost among the endued with great strength is able to rob you of Soma. Everything is possible with him. The unachievable he can achieve. So they continued. Indra, having heard these words, then spoke on to the god at Amrita, saying, A bird endued with great strength and energy that has set his heart, taking away Amrita. I warn you beforehand so that he may not succeed in taking away it by force. Brihaspati has told me this strength is immeasurable. The gods, hearing that, it would look amazed and took precautions, and they stood surrounding the Amrita. And Indra, also of great prowess, the welder of the thunder, stood with them. And the gods wore curious breastplates of gold of great value, set with gems and bright lesson armor, great toughness. The mighty deities wielded various sharp-edged weapons of terrible shapes, countless in number, emitting even all of them sparks of fire and smoke. They were also alarmed with many discus with iron mace furnished with spikes, trident, antelakes, various kinds of sharp pointed missiles, polished swords, and maces of terrible form, all befitting their respective bodies. Decked with celestial ornaments, resplendent with those bright arms, the gods waited their fears allayed, and the gods, of incomparable strength, energy, splendor, resolved to protect Amrita, capable of splitting the towns of Asuras, all displayed themselves in forms resplendent as fire. In the consequence of God standing there, it would be a battlefield owing to hundreds and thousands of maces furnished with iron spikes, shone like another firmament illuminated by the rays of sun. This ends with the 30th section of Astika Parva, Adi Parva. 31st section. Sonaka said, O son of Sutta, what was Indra's fault and what his act of carelessness? How Garuda was born in consequence of ascetic penances. The Valakilyas. Why also Kashyapa, a Brahmana, had the king of birds for his son? Why too was he invincible of all creatures and unslayable of all? Why also was the ranger of the skies capable of going to every place at will and mustering at will any measure of energy? If these are described in Purana, should like to hear them. Sauti said, What thou ask me is indeed the subject of the Purana. O twice on one, twice, listen as I briefly recite it all. Once upon a time, when the Lord of the creation, Kashyapa was engaged in a sacrifice from the desire of offspring. The rishis, gods, and the Gandharvas all gave him help, and Indra was appointed by Kashyapa to bring the sacrificial fuel. And with him, those ascetics, the Valakilyas, all the other deities of Lord Indra, taking up according to his own strength, the weight that was mountain-like, brought it without any fatigue. And he saw on the way some rishis of the bodies of the measure of thumb, all together carrying a single stalk of palasa. Palasa is Buttea frondosa leaf. And those were the rishis were from want of food, very lean and almost merged in their own bodies. And they were so weak that they were much afflicted when they sunk in the water that collected with an indentation on the road produced by the hoof of a cow. And Purandara, proud of his strength, beheld them with surprise, and laughing at them in derision, soon left behind, insulting them. Besides passing over their heads, and the rishis, being thus insulted, were filled with rage and sorrow, and they made preparations for a great sacrifice, at which Indra was terrified. Here, O Saunaka, for the wish for accomplishment, which this O observing wise and excellent aesthetics poured clarified butter of the sacrificial fire with loudly uttered mantras. There shall be another Indra of all gods, capable of going everywhere at will, and of mustering at will any energy, any measure of energy, and striking tear into the present king of gods. By the fruit of our ascetic penance, let this one fleet as mind and fierce withal. The Lord of the Celestials of the 100 sacrifices, having come to know of this, became very much alarmed, sought for protection of the observing Kasyapa, and the Prajapati Kashyapa, hearing everything from Indra, went on to Valakilyas, asked them for the sacrifice that has been successful. The true speaking rishis replied to him, saying, let it be as thou sayest. And the Prajapati Kashyapa, pacifying them, spake on to them, by the word of Brahman, let one Indra has been made, and Lord of the three worlds, ye ascetics, you are striving to create another Indra. Ye excellent ones, it behoves you not to falsify the word of Brahma. Let us, for this purpose, for accomplishing what you are striving, be rendered futile. Let the spring of Indra, let there spring an Indra of winged creatures endued with excess of strength. Be gracious unto Indra, who is suppliant before you. And the Valakilyas thus addressed Kashyapa after offering reference that the Munis, Prajapati Kashyapa spake unto them. Valakilyas said, O Prajapati, this sacrifice is for us. All is for an Indra. Indeed, it has also been meant for a son being born unto thee. Let this task be now left to thee. And in this matter, do whatsoever thou seest good and proper.